was 21. If you believe what he wrote down on the paper that the sergeant made him sign. Never held a gun, he'd never been too far from home. Never had a night like this in mind. Moved him to the front and left him with one order: don't give up the hole we made you dig. Took a picture out, and then he read some letters, closed his eyes, said, "The Lord my shepherd is." Peace comes still and slow, falls like silent snow, swings down sweet and low. Peace comes still and slow. She was on the street and looking for some shelter, beaten down and weary of this world, shivering from the cold, crazy from the voices. She dreams of summers when she was a girl. We live in a world of trials and tribulations, people filled with hatred everywhere. So we bow our heads and we raise our voices, offer our petition in this prayer. Peace come still and slow, falls like silent snow, swings down sweet and low. Peace comes still and slow.
Hey everybody, welcome to Vespers. We're so glad that you have joined us this evening as we gather together. And now we begin like we do every evening, celebrating the presence of Christ, who is in us, among us, and beyond us. Remembering all those in our community of faith and in our larger community who are suffering, and being reminded that we're not alone. On Monday this week, we had our first travel group. Jane Tatum came up with this idea, and Gwen Hart helped moderate, and we got to hear from Yvonne Brashear about her trip to Cambodia. And you know, sometimes you don't realize you need something until it happens, and I realized on Monday night I really needed this. I needed to get out a little bit, even if it was just looking at some pictures from Yvonne's trip. It was a great time to be reminded about this beautiful, huge world that is all around us. And to be reminded that even as we have had to kind of limit our circles of contact, that we are part of a much larger community in this world, even beyond our families and our friends and our family of faith. We really need each other. We really need other folks in this world. And so it was beautiful to get to see and experience different cultures through trips of somebody else. We're going to continue to do more of these as well. And so we invite you to look at our newsletter and join us for one of these times, because it's a great time to get to hang out, to get to talk, and to get to think about the time when we may be able to travel once again and see new sights. Well, tonight we get to talk with April Jacobson. April is a new member at Central. Even though she's been with us at Central for a while now, we're so glad that she has joined as a member too. During the pandemic, she's had a full house with children at home from school as she's been teaching and working with them. Right now, she's also working on her master's in social work at UK. So tonight we get to hear from April, see how she's doing, and find out a little bit more about her journey to Central and how God is continuing to work in her life. So let's go talk with April. Hey, April, how are you doing? If my clicker will work here, we'll try it again. Let's try it again. Hey, April, how you doing?
Doing good. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too. I'm so glad that we were able to connect and you were able to find time so that we could talk. Thanks so much for doing this today.
Yeah, well, I'm really happy about it. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, well, I need to say welcome again as a new member. Even though you've been part of the family for a while, we're so glad that you've joined Central too.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So we're excited to get to talk a little bit and find out a little bit more about you, kind of your journey to Central, and then a little bit about what's going on now, since we're all distanced and we can't have these hallway conversations like we normally would. You want to tell us just first of all, how are y'all doing right now? How are things going for you at the present?
Yeah. Well, they're going okay. It's been pretty hard because we are pretty isolated and we don't really get out a lot. And so that's, it's really been hard. We all like social things. I think everyone in my family, probably except maybe one, is pretty social. And so it's been a real challenge to be home all the time and for the kids not to be in school and, just life to be so different. But I think in general, we're doing okay. We've all been healthy and we all have all the things we need. And, we're making it. Well, but I can't say that we won't be sorry, that we would be sorry to see this all end, because we won't be.
Right.
I just had Violet, my second to youngest, was watching church 2 weeks ago, and she just looked at it and she said, "Oh, I just miss being there so much." She said it was just like something beautiful that got me through every week, and she just was expressing that. And I was like, I know, I can't wait to. So we're all looking forward to that day.
Oh, well, my sentiments exactly, Violet. And we're so yeah. that's wonderful to hear. But, and so heartbreaking too. I wish we could be together.
I know.
So,
I know.
Well, hopefully, before long, we'll get some vaccines and we'll get back on track. So.
Oh man, I know. That'll be a good day.
It will be, yeah. Well, can you tell us a little bit about your journey to Central and what brought you to Central?
Yeah. So I have a lot of kids, and we had some pretty hard things happen to us from around 2016 to 2018. And during that time, I ended up kind of having a falling out with just evangelicalism in general. And so I just pretty much left the churches that I had been going to. I mean, I only went to one at a time, but over the course of years, there had been a couple, that I had been at and been very involved in. I've always really, really valued having a church family. That's just something that means a lot to me. And so that was really hard when that time kind of ended for me. And it really involved a lot of re-examining my faith too. I think that I had been someone who was really interested in having all of the answers for everything. And I really liked a system that provided answers and no questions, except that I didn't really, but it kind of helped my life structure. But then when I had done everything that I was supposed to, because I like to overachieve in things if possible, it didn't work, and the whole system didn't work. And so it really left me floundering and, sent me in a time of a real faith search. And so I think that I, for a while, didn't know if I would go back to church or what I would do. It's difficult when you've had a lot of, as people like to say, church trauma, but I was not okay without a church family. I just love having believers around me and being in fellowship with them. That's just so important to me and always has been. So I started looking for places that might more reflect what I found that I believed. And so it took a long time of visiting and going a lot of different places. But the first time I came to Central, I realized I felt like I told my family, it was like I walked into a big hug, and I didn't know that I would feel that in the church again. And so it was just a beautiful place, and I just hadn't wanted to leave since. So I just love it. And so that's kind of how I got there.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear. And we're so glad that you came to Central and that you found us. So glad that you're part of the family too. So
well, I am too. I am really, really, really grateful for it. And it's been so good to have a place that I felt like I could really be myself. And that was not something that I had felt before. And it was actually a really conscious decision. There was one day I was visiting in Sunday school with Isa. She used to come with me. And because she was still in high school when we were actually there in the building. And I remember telling her, I was like, so am I going to be my real self or not? And it was a really conscious decision. And then I was like, well, what's even the point if I'm not going to be myself? I'm just going to do it. And if I get rejected again, well, at least I know. And so it was kind of like that, like a real conscious decision about how I was going to be. And that was really the first time I had ever really done that. And I found people that were so kind and open to me having questions and having some strong opinions sometimes, and that was okay, and it was just wonderful. So
Oh, well, that's great. And I feel like that's one of the most beautiful things about Central, where we don't have to agree, but I think folks really do appreciate the questions. The questions are really important. We may not So many of them we're not going to find the answer to, but we've got to ask. We've got to be able to ask those questions. That's a common story too, and I feel like when you're saying that, my heart really resonates with so many of the things that you're saying about evangelicalism and growing up in those traditions, and whenever the ways that things are supposed to work out don't seem to work that way, it really does bring some questions. And oftentimes certain faith traditions say, no, you're not supposed to ask those, or you didn't have enough faith, or this or that. And I think church trauma is very real, and you're very right about that. So many folks have been hurt. So
but it's also church is also such a good place, and a place to have when it's working in the way that I think that Jesus would approve of. It's a place where people can feel love and connection. And there was some times where my faith was really going through a lot of things, and it was good to be able to feel like that was not only okay, but I could also kind of be held in a sense by other people's faith. And I think that that's another part of the community of faith that's so valuable, is that sometimes you can just rest on other people's faith, and that really helps you get through some really hard things. And so I'm more on the other side of that journey now, although I hope that I never think that I have the answers all again, and hope that I always am in the process of questioning and learning and finding new aspects of faith and community. But I'm not in the same place that I was when I first started coming to Central. So
well, I'm so glad that this can be a place of healing and a place of rejuvenation for folks to be able to find. I still pinch myself oftentimes and I say, is this really a church? Really?
I know. Yeah. You should have heard me trying to describe it to my very conservative family. It was, they're like, so there's a lot of older people, and I was like, yeah, and they're like affirming, and I was like, yeah. It was just, really mind-blowing to them. I think that there was a place like I was describing, and I'm not really sure what many of them think of all of that, but that's okay with me. It's okay for people to have their own places where they are comfortable and where they feel that is right for them at their time. And but I also felt that way. Like, is this all really true? And I think that's one of the reasons why, it took a long time for me to decide to join, in a sense, because to me that really means something. And I really needed to know if it was all real.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm glad you stuck it out with us, and we're so glad that you're here. So, tell us a little bit about kind of what else you've been doing. Like, you're back in school now too. Can you tell us a little bit about how that's going?
Right. Yeah. So I originally have a history degree from back when I was a child, and that. Over the years, I decided I taught for a little while, very briefly, and then I decided to have lots of children. And during that time, I stayed home with the kids, and I homeschooled some of the time, and that was really enjoyable. And
so you were still teaching.
Right, and I taught at a homeschool co-op and things like that over the years. And so, but then when my husband and I separated, I needed to start working. And so the first thing I did was go back into teaching. But I really didn't connect with teaching at this time. A lot had changed in my life, and I really realized that the things that I was really passionate about was more in line with doing social work. So that's what I'm doing now.
Oh, that's great.
And I'm not exactly sure what I'll end up doing, but that's where I'm at. So I'm doing my master's in social work at UK, and I'm just starting. I intended to go full time and get done in 3 years, but then I'm now homeschooling 5 kids again. And so that makes it pretty challenging to get all that done.
Yeah.
So we'll see how long it'll take. But, one of these days I will have another degree.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's great that you started that. That has to be a whole lot to try to tackle at once. That's like 8 full-time jobs.
Yeah, it really does feel that way. It really does. I mean, I didn't even own a computer. I mean, I really was just like, not into anything like that. So it has been a huge learning curve. I mean, just getting back to school after 20 years is something entirely different. But, writing papers and doing all that stuff and figuring out all the technology and all that stuff has been, actually it's been kind of awesome because there's been so many things that I've learned how to do on my own now that I'm single. It's just been, I actually really enjoy a lot of it. It's really a lot of fun things to learn in like a new phase in my life. So just adding school on top of that seemed like, why not?
Right. Oh, that's wonderful. Well, I tell you what, an attitude like that will carry you right through. That's awesome.
I'm hoping the attitude will help because I need all the help I can get. It's definitely been very hard, and but you kind of hope that it will be hard because you kind of hope that people that are doing what I'm doing actually know something. Right.
Yeah. Well, hey, UK is a great place with a great social work program to go. So that's wonderful, and so many different opportunities in that field too.
Yeah, I think that I'm gonna. What I'm originally hoping to do is to be back into the public schools because I'm just really passionate about public education and helping people with disabilities and things with trauma. I have a couple of my kids have disabilities. I have 3 kids from Ukraine, and they have different levels of disabilities. And then we have a lot of trauma in our family that I've really learned so much about that I really connected when I was back in the school with those kids that I could identify as that, had trauma or that had disabilities and really needed help. And so that's kind of what I'm hoping to do is to get back into the school and really help serve that population. So we'll see, because you never know who you're going to be in 4 years. I mean, everything changes. So it's like, I don't know who I'll be when I get to the end of this program, but that's kind of my ideas right now.
Oh, that's great. Man, I would like to unpack that. That's a beautiful realization too. I don't know who I'll be in 4 years. That's so true, and I wish that I had that wisdom to think about that in the moment too, because that's a really big deal.
Yeah. I mean, it really is. It's like you just don't. Everything that you go through changes you as a person, and I think that I've gone through a lot of really, really terrible things, and yet that has enabled me to have a whole different outlook on life than I did before. And I have a lot of humility and a lot of just realizing that I don't know what the future will hold. That used to really paralyze me because I was so afraid of more terrible things happening. But eventually I realized that more terrible things might happen. That is real. That is my reality. And but I'm going to be okay even through that because I have learned a lot, and I realized that I can make it through things. And so I don't know what the future will hold, but I'm not as afraid of it as I used to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Melissa often, since I live with a therapist, she often talks about therapy kinds of things, and that's the technical term for it, therapy kinds of things. And so she mentions to me radical acceptance quite a bit, which I know enough about to be dangerous, and which I wield dangerously. But it really, that feels like that, I've got to accept what is here and what's going to happen, and somehow that's freeing too.
It is.
Yeah.
It was really hard at the beginning for me because I had a belief system that told me that if you do everything right, then everything will turn out okay. And that's just not true. And, I did do the things that I was supposed to do. I was the kind of person that I was supposed to be, genuinely, and really believed the things that I said, and really tried to live my life as a person of integrity and faith. And that didn't change the reality of the things that happened. And that doesn't mean that things will be okay. And I think that was a really hard thing at first, because I thought, well, does that mean my faith isn't real? Does that mean that, that there's something wrong with me, or, all those kind of things? And it was hard to learn to accept that that's just the way that life is. There is beauty and there is pain, and that's just how life is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just trying to find a path to love and serve the people in my life, even so. And I think that's kind of where I've been able to come to. Obviously that will be always challenged when hard things are happening, right? You can't be quite so calm when there are hard things, but that's still just kind of what life is like.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's a good reminder and wise words for the time that we're living in right now. So, in this time, has there been anything that you've been doing to stay sane? Anything? Have you had time to do anything like that?
Well, I like to work out. That has been something that has been a big part of my life for a long time. I did weightlifting and a lot of those kinds of things, and so I'm still at that. I had a pretty big health problem time for quite a while that really seemed like it was going to threaten my ability to continue to do that. But I am grateful to have been able to recover and am now back to doing that. I have a dilapidated garage from the 1920s that is still standing in my backyard that I have in my gym. My gym is in there. And so that is fun and cold.
Yeah.
So I do that and really enjoy that. And I like to do a lot of thinking and reading. I'm just that kind of person. I like to listen to podcasts and think and read, and that, but then really I just do life with a lot of kids that have a high level of need. And it turns out that even when they, get older, that doesn't change. I kind of always thought that would.
Yeah.
Turns out, no, it doesn't change. So, still trying to just, take care of and love my kids. And that's, the biggest focus of my life. But I would have to say that the pandemic did allow for my kids to be home with me for a year. And that has been really beautiful. It has been a joy to have my kids. I didn't know that I wouldn't have on purpose chosen to homeschool again, just because it's really hard.
Yeah.
And, but I have just loved it. And not every single minute,
right.
It can get rather tedious at times. Zoom is not my favorite method of education, but I really loved it. And I was just talking to Violet and Cosette this week, as their, Fayette County is going to be deciding soon. And by the time this airs, I don't know what will have happened, but the possibility of them going back to school, I'm glad for them, because they're both very sad and lonely. But also, it has been so sweet. Something that I just wouldn't have had otherwise. And so I've really loved that.
Yeah, it's amazing how those.
I really. Oh,
no, you go ahead. You go ahead.
I was going to say, I just have to say, I really just have the best kids. I mean, they are just so sweet and wonderful. And so it's been a real joy to be with them. So that's my bright spot.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, it's amazing how those little snippets of time that you wouldn't have had before, sometimes in between a class or something, you get these interesting conversations that you wouldn't have expected or you would have missed before somehow, how those can be just important.
Yeah, it really, that is really true. And, just having the rhythms of daily life where you're just all together and really sharing that in such a different way. I mean, even if I had been homeschooling like I did in the past with my older children, it wouldn't have been like this. We wouldn't have been in the house all day.
Right.
And so it's, we would be doing lots of things and seeing lots of people and stuff. And so that really intense slowdown has, it's been a very interesting time, I would say. So.
Yeah, it really has. And for the introverted part of me, there's part of me that really, really enjoys that. And then there's another part of me that, that realizes, I really do need people.
Yeah, it really is true. I just told my Sunday school class, I was like, sometimes you guys are the only adults I talk to the whole week. And that's just crazy. I do have family, but that I do have great relationship with, but none of them live nearby. So, I don't get to see people very often. And so that it's been a really different thing, and you have to be a lot more intentional about relationships. And I even have an alarm that goes off every day at a certain time that on my phone, it says human time. And it is my reminder every day to talk to a person.
That's a great idea.
It's funny that you have to do that, but you can, just being in your house all day, and me being the only adult, it's, I can go for a long time without remembering to do that. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so lonely,
Yeah. Oh, that's smart. There's so many things like that we have to remember to do that we could use that for. That's great. Well,
it's very funny though. Who would have ever? I cannot have imagined that I would have an alarm on my phone to tell me to interact with another human. It's really ridiculous, but at the same time, it just is what it is.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it makes sense in the context of this year. It doesn't sound strange in the slightest to me. So,
no. Isn't that weird? Oh my goodness.
It is strange. So it's been great talking with you. Did you have anything that you'd like to share? Maybe a devotional thought or a scripture or something with us?
Yeah, I have a quote that I'm not really sure how to say her last name, but it's from Valerie Carr. And it's Kaur, so I'm not 100% sure. But it's just a beautiful thing that have really been meaningful to me to think about during this time. And it is this. Love is more than a feeling. Love is a form of sweet labor, fierce, bloody, imperfect, and life-giving, a choice we make over and over again. If love is sweet labor, love can be taught, modeled, and practiced. This labor engages all our emotions. Joy is the gift of love. Grief is the price of love. Anger is the force that protects that which is loved. And when we have reached our limit, wonder is the act that returns us to love. And I've just really thought about that a lot and thinking about how this time for me has been such an intense time of love service for my children, and thinking about how love brings out the joy and the grief and the anger, but then the wonder of it. And I think that's something that I have felt over and over again during this time of the pandemic, is just the wonder of the fact of love is just such an amazing thing. And I like how she says, when we reached our limit, which I think many of us feel that just constantly, like right now, just like almost that we're living beyond our limit in so many ways. And then to think that that wonder of love is something that just can really bring us back to that labor, that sweet labor. And so that's kind of, not that my life is just a labor, but often it is. And it's definitely a labor of love. And so I just really liked that. I thought that was really good.
That is gorgeous. Sweet labor. What a beautiful way to think about that. Oh my goodness, that is wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are.
Yeah.
And can you tell me again who it was? The quote was from?
Yeah, it's Valerie Carr, Kaur.
Okay.
I might be mispronouncing her name, but anyway, I just thought that was really good and a really apt thing for my time of life, which is just day in and day out, sweet labor.
Yeah.
But anyway.
What a beautiful and generous way to think about it too. How it encompasses all of our emotions, even the difficult ones, even anger and frustration. And we do seem to cycle.
And grief.
Yeah.
There's a lot of grief in our life right now, I think, grieving so many things that are lost and people that are lost. And just, there is a great deal of grief. And I really love thinking about that. That's the price of love. And when we love well, then we will grieve. And, I've loved many things. I've loved the dreams that I've had that I've lost. I've loved the life that I imagined that I would have that I lost. And I've had many other things to grieve. And I think that is because of having an open heart to love, and we have to keep that. It's hard when there's a lot of grief, I think. I think every week on Sunday school, someone has lost someone else, and I think that continuous grief can be really, really hard to do. Yeah. But anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, and it feels like this time those things are just building up in lives too, for people, with so many ways that we would normally be able to comfort one another and share the burden with one another are just harder to do right now too. Well, thanks for letting me share that. I appreciate it. Well, thank you for sharing it. It's wonderful, and it has been so wonderful to talk with you today.
Yeah, well, you too. It really is fun. And, just to say again that I'm so happy to have found you guys and gotten to know you. And it's been really good. So I'm just really thankful for it.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. And tell everybody we said hi. And we hopefully we'll get to see you again soon.
Yes, and we'll always be there Sunday morning, sitting in our living room, all piled up on the couch, being with everyone in whatever way we can.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's great. Well, it's good to know. And it's so wonderful, even when we see folks in the chat, I can, it really makes a difference. It really does to know that we're all there together. So,
yeah, you can really feel that is true. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, thank you so much. And we'll talk again soon.
Okay.
Bye. Thank you so much, April, for taking time out to share with us this evening. Just so appreciate your insights, your wisdom, and sharing what you have learned with us. And we're so grateful that you are a part of our family of faith. And so thank you so much for doing that this evening. It really was great to get to see you and to get to talk. Let's sing a song now before we go. How about a couple of verses of Be Thou My Vision? Be Thou my vision, O Lord of my heart, not be all else to me save that Thou art, Thou my best thought by day or by night, waking or sleeping, Thy presence my light. High King of heaven, my victory won, may I son. Heart of my own heart, whatever befall, still be my vision, O ruler of all. Amen. Thanks again for being here with us this evening. We're so grateful that we can still take time out to get to know one another a little better and to be reminded that we're not alone, that we're all moving through this together wherever we find ourselves. There's other ways that you can connect with us. If you want to go online, you can find out about other groups at our website, lexcentral.com, and in our newsletter as well. We have baby boomers coming up. We've got another travel group coming up next week, along with writers workshop next week as well. If there's other ways that you would like to connect with us on Zoom groups, please go to our website, find out more about those. There's folks that you can email. You can always email me, and I'll be happy to get you the information that you need so that you can join in with us as well. And we'll be back again on Sunday right here on YouTube as we worship the second Sunday of Lent. So join us again for that as well. For now, go in peace.